A very good afternoon to all our viewers from the team here at Wild Earth, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole, where this afternoon we are starting off with two warthogs and a female Egyptian goose. And unhappy with the fact that she has to move. I'm your host this afternoon, Japie Potgieter, and I'll be taking you through all the adventures that we will have around the watering holes this afternoon. What about this afternoon? Judging from the reflection in the water, it looks like it is slightly overcast. I know that part of South Africa, some cooler weather. As it looks quite relaxed. These warthogs are just feeding. I haven't even seen them. Oh, there's another Egyptian goose. Let's see. They're probably going to make it 2 out of 2. Joan Mello, good Monday to both Wild Earth and myself. Thank you so much. A good Monday to you too. What a beautiful lot. And from Lady Macbeth, oh, good afternoon to you too. From away from damp UK. I think it would be quite nice to have a little bit of dampness in some areas of South Africa currently, especially along the eastern side. Although and they've been experiencing quite a wet winter or dry season. It's funny to following the other one carefully, almost where that one fed. It's following through and picking up whatever it left behind. You can see some black-capped bulbuls. Here we go. Now these geese have to move again. It looks like these warthog are going to the water. So they're definitely going after the greener grass there. And it looks like two younger warthogs now that I can see the long white whiskers. Reckon to resemble tusks once. we can see they're feeding, so I'm assuming that there's no worry for any predators that might be near. A very interesting looking animal indeed. Smallish ears, even though they've got a very good sense of hearing. The small raised eyes. They don't always have, well, they're not regarded to have excitement though. Kimberly Enlow, you're saying that they look a little bit blue in their coat. Actually, well, at least these two. Now, I can see it looks the bluish color is tinted by a little bit of a on the longer parts of the mane running along the back side or the back. The warthog generally takes on the hue or the color of the skin of the warthog generally takes on the hue of the soil that it last wallowed in. Look like they're full of mud, and I guess with the weather they're not desperate to try and cool down. There's like a little bit of a brownish color on the mane that's maybe from a different wallowing than the last one. They did cover themselves yesterday or earlier this morning. Pretty much else coming down here now. So while these warthogs continue their feeding around the dam, I think let's head over to El Doño and we'll see what's happening there. So we briefly checked in with 4 elephants at El Doño. They look like they're having at Okakuyu, where I can see some antelopes coming down, moving away actually. Incredibly dry area. I can see a little bit of a breeze going if I look at the water. Looks like there's a lot of action on this side of the water closer to me. If I look at the evidence in the soil, but it looks very quiet here, just a springbok or two that's moving off, so I think we're gonna and see what we have at Tau. Ooh, a big male giraffe coming down. leisurely strolling. Maybe he's up just to scan the area. And if I'm not mistaken, this is actually my first giraffe at this watering hole. And by the looks of it, he's got a mark on his back. And there we have another warthog. I've seen with some of the giraffe, especially around Altonio and some of the other places, they are quite particular drinkers. He is making his way to the water. They carefully select their spots. You can see he's staring down at the water's edge there. Sometimes we find that they move up and down, back and forth, before they actually settle on a spot. There's white midge, and I'm pretty sure that some of those are from hooves, animals slipping in. This should be an interesting drink here. The Enlow. This soil, I'm pretty sure that these quite full of calcium, but you can see this giraffe decided against it, and he's moving off. So I think let's head over. How lucky are we? Get this majestic rhino. Literally in the act of creating himself a mud wallow. Now, Kimberly Enlow, I just want to get back to your question. You asked if that soils would be full of calcium. And yes, indeed it is. There is quite a, but not in the massive amounts that one might expect. Just to be able to get taken up within the plant material around and to provide the animals with the necessary nutrition that they need. And it's hard to think when we look at large animals like this rhino, for instance. They only live off plants, and that plants contain everything their bodies need: calcium, iron, it's quite the process. But yes, when the soils do contain a lot of minerals and nutrients, like calcium for instance, and often what we find is we find certain animals, which is a term applied Kelvin, this rhino is indeed digging. It looks like he's digging or loosening up soil. Some wallowing. I think he's trying to loosen soil to wet it. And he's making a small bubble. It looks almost enjoyable. You can see he's pulling back his ears and his eyes are closing. Wow. Maybe that was what he was doing. Maybe he was just preparing the spot to... certainly quite a lot of moisture. Now I can't see clearly. He might actually, he's definitely losing some soil. See if he's actually eating some of it or not, or if he's just scratching. Looks like he's just off. There we go. He's definitely softened the ground a little bit to kind of act like a cushion on it. And their skin's surprisingly sensitive, so I've noticed when they do find a spot to lay down, they often do loosen the soil a little. But yeah, to provide a layer of loose soil that's softer and more comfortable. Viv, conscious the deeper you go. Well, I guess it depends on the area in a way, especially in the time and era that we're curious, where there's been a lot of human actions, like for instance farming. In some areas the top layer of the soil is not always as nutritional or as rich in nutrients as one might think, but generally the top or the upper parts of the soil is usually the parts that is best broken down, and through natural processes it would contain most of the organic matter, which is essential to soil health and also for soil organisms to thrive and to promote plant growth, ultimately food for these large animals. But there is certainly certain areas, certain instances where the topsoil might have been trampled, or it might have had some other form of impact, maybe due to unsustainable farming practices, where the top level becomes a little bit dull and unnutritional, and in that case creatures might dig a little bit to get to the better soil. But generally speaking, the top part of the soil is the more nutritional, and the deeper you go, the larger the particles become that's still part of the original bedrock which it forms from. Dig will find the original parent rock material which the soil is derived from. That's quite an interesting view. Down and the rhino facing the other way, but that was quite the show this rhino gave us. Just turn that part. Let's see what he does here. Maybe you do the same. There we go. Almost exactly the same, just on the other end of the watering hole. Now I can see that there's a lot of loose mud here, and in the past I have seen the rhinos come down to this corner. So it's definitely them loosening up the soil there, not only for a little bit of a more comfortable surface to lay on, but also the loose soil makes for better mud in the water. Nice thick mud that can form a protection. You can see it's just picking. Maybe that might also be why I was scratching front of his nose or below the horn. Sometimes what happens is, as they feed or when they encounter other animals, meaning other rhinos, animals of the same species, we don't always realize, but they might sustain small cuts or bruises or small minor injuries around the nose or the softer parts of the body, maybe near the feet. And also what the animals might do is they might actually cover themselves in mud, kind of as a protective measure. Nina, can they cause damage to the soil? Sure, that's a good question. They are actually, well, rhinos, I think in former times when they were found in much larger numbers, they were very likely played the part of the ecosystem engineer, meaning that they would have played a vital role in facilitating healthy soil and therefore promote good grass growth, kind of facilitating the habitat that they need. These rhinos, the white rhino like this guy, only eats grass. But having said that, I guess like any animal, it is a hooved animal in too small a space. It can certainly add or degrade a certain patch of soil, hardening up the top layer of the soil, preventing anything new from growing, and also overgrazing, of course, which would cause fall. Now he's covered his underside quite well, scratching off some of the excess mud. Cathay, this is a new individual you haven't seen before. I don't know myself yet. I haven't seen this individual before. not that I recall. That's occurring around here, but it's nice to know that it's a new one that you haven't seen before. And there we go, good scratch. Get rid of the excess mud. Now Dean, you're saying this guy's hilarious. He is quite hilarious. But you're also saying that he reminds you of your dog. Now, I don't know how big, but if you're talking about the casual way that he moves into an area and does what he wants, then I think you got a very, very amazing dog. You can see scratching all those hotch pies, usually around the horns or the base of the horns, and then around the shoulders, of course, the top of the head. But that the other thing also is that these two trees around this watering hole is very sound, very strong, sturdy rubbing posts. So with the rough, not only the rough bark, but also the fact that they do attract other creatures through the scent and the smells that get left behind by other animals. And then we have a bliss book in the back. And what a good scratch. It's amazing how this animal in that shade like that. But nice shade for a very active part of the process. Kim saying that mud is clearly meant to be enjoyed, and Lady Macbeth, you saying that this rhino enjoyed. So I think the way he makes it looks like it is there to be enjoyed, although it plays a very vital role for these animals in treating their skin with moisture, that it gives them the chance to treat certain processes like help with the exfoliation process. It just provides a little bit of an extra barrier to direct sunlight. Even though they're well adapted to be out on the plains, all creatures are to the sun's rays. That was a pretty special sky. I think what we're going to do is we are going to move over to Tembe to see if there's any change from with the warthogs there. Here we have some Inyala and woolly neck stork. Quite a few Inyala actually. Like one or two young males, females. And a young one, very young one. They look a little nervous. That was quite entertaining. I think the kingfisher, if I'm not mistaken, it was a brown-hooded kingfisher. I didn't have a clear view of the bird, but I know there's one that we sometimes see around here. But as he came down for a little wash or to grab something, just gave his Inyala a bit of a fright. They've clearly recognized their mistake and decided to move back. You can see the second one seems looking intently at something in the water. Not sure what is there. Generally in the wilder parts of Africa, find that antelope are quite nervous around water, just for the potential predators might come from behind. But and there it happened once again. I think this time the bird prompted them sufficiently to move off. That was quite the sighting. But just to... it looks like they've gone off. The warthog are still in the same spot we saw them earlier. They've moved away from the water's edge. Although I can see it looks like a patch of green grass there. Now I haven't noticed any potential, but it's amazing to see and to watch animals, especially antelope, near the water's edge. Antelope and baboon, or the primates, and they always kind of show a little bit of an instinctive fear to the water. And I'm pretty sure that stems from a very, very long period of evolution alongside the crocodile. Interesting, I can see it looks like two oxpeckers climbing across the warthog on the right hand side, utilizing that moment when he lifted his head, standing still, to get behind the ear, further down to the shoulder area. Also an interesting relationship between the oxpecker and some of the mammals, some of the smaller and larger mammals tend to be considered a mutually beneficial relationship between these creatures, where the oxpeckers, I can see a very red bull there on the one facing towards the camera, so red-billed oxpeckers. You get two species, the red-billed and yellow-billed oxpecker, and as far as I know in northern Zululand the yellow-billed oxpecker is quite a rare sighting. You can see it's moving around. It's perfectly adapted for gripping onto the side of animals with tough fur and moving up and down into the folds, the hard to reach areas. And as they do that, they look, and mostly ticks, blood-filled ticks. So actually after that blood, but that way they also clean the warthog. Animals a little bit irritated by them at points. I can imagine that the sharp little claws moving across the neck and the face can be irritating at points. But in South African region, the warthog is often regarded as the smallest one of the animals that they tend to sit on. So serve another function, which is a function of almost like an early alarm bell. They might get spooked before the animals realize that there's something nearby. But they can certainly also contribute to the nervousness of an animal. Yes, Lady Macbeth, that those Nyala were certainly quite skittish earlier on. I don't know what might have prompted that. I don't know if that was just from being near the water. Maybe it's the fact that there wasn't many other animals nearby. A quiet space can often hide certain dangers to animals lower down in the food chain. One oxpeck jumped over to the other one, jumped ship. They're not actively going up and down on the warthog. It looks like there's a little bit of sun breaking through, so maybe... Oh, there you go, there's a third one. You often see that these oxpeckers also just climb up on the back of some of the animals, especially on the side facing the sun, where they will sit and bask a little bit. But Lola, it's indeed nice to see so many warthogs around today. Warthog is quite a commonly seen creature throughout the bushveld and the bush all across Africa, but I think sometimes we don't pay enough attention to them. They are fascinating creatures indeed. Now these two being on their own and still looking rather young, judging from their white whiskers and the size of their tusks, they might have maybe left one of their natal groups or their natal group recently. Spending more time on their own. You can see they're clearly going for the greener patches there. You can see them shoveling around with that very well, flat, strong nose, bulldozing their way through. And there we have two elephants. Okay, Lady Macbeth, it's good to know. Thank you so much for letting me know. So you've never seen a crocodile at this watering hole? I haven't seen one, certainly, in the time that I've been seeing the events unfold around it. don't think there is one, but having said that, you never know those things. And I guess that's what the Inyala showed us. Give, you're saying this is your favorite watering hole. That's a spectacular watering hole. It's a spectacular region of South Africa. Very little known part. It's very, very diverse. And such a beautiful, unique region. A unique sand forest habitat. Used to play a vital role in the protection of elephants within this region, just because it's so dense and it was quite impenetrable back in the day. Along with elk mosquito. But also we have magnificent where we see elephants, very tusks. Lenny, you saying that the colors are so vivid here at Tembe that it looks like a painting. Indeed, it certainly could be a painting. Definitely lots of beautiful changed. I can see some bright green leaves sprouting, trees relieving themselves. And you have the dull, almost greys and reds in between. The color of the elephant dung. The tannins in their diet. This time of the year the elephants tend to eat a little bit more the trees. So the dung tends to taint a little bit, dries out. But these two are just casually having a drink here. See, they're almost water. Now I am wondering, like, with these pans being seasonal, but some of them capable of keeping and holding water long, they might be quite deep. Also, with the weather there currently, you can see this elephant's not desperate to cover its body in mud or cool down. I think the thick bush around it provides ample shade. So elephant. No, it's amazing if you think about it. They almost look like because it's there. And every now and again, putting down their trunk. And what I do find elephants having a much larger water requirement tend to drink longer. Not all of them. Elephants just go past watering holes to go see which other elephants might have moved past, and not always to drink, or not with the main aim to drink, but it's regarded that a large elephant can store or suck up to about 10 liters of water. It's probably a little bit less than that at a time. And if you've got a large elephant having a water requirement of about 200 liters or 150 to 200 liters of water a day, I'm pretty sure that would mean at least 15 to 20 times it would put its trunk down into the water and suck up water. You can see the other one's gone to go and dust bathe. I'm pretty sure this bigger one might do the same. He seemed quite relaxed. I see that the elephant's got his trunk up onto that right side tusk right at the top. The elephants often keep their tusk or their trunks up in what might seem like awkward positions, but they often have a reason for it as well. And at the area of the lip, just at the base of the tusk, where the tusk goes into the skull, it's often an area that we find they might develop infections or irritations for whatever reason. I do sometimes find that they tend to stuff that part of the lip then with mud or dirt, or they might constantly pay attention to it. And there was a good dust bath from this one. You can see lots of it. Looks like a little sand pit dug. Whoa! That was a nice action. It looks like the two warthogs' idyllic moment around this watering hole was not so hassle-free. It's always funny to watch the way elephants take out their frustrations on the smaller creatures around them. The two geese in the front seems quite undeterred. Now the elephant's feeding there. I'm pretty sure after the warthogs move through there might be some exposed delicacies there, and maybe that's what it's looking for. Now he's moved away from the other one. He's not moving away from the water. He's not really feeding or drinking there, so he might just be investigating what the warthogs were doing there, while waiting for the other one. Elephants are very, very curious creatures, and they do inspect the actions of other animals often. Let's see what happens once it gets close to the geese. You can see he's hovering the tip of the trunk just above the ground. He's not really stopping to necessarily feed on anything, so he was kind of moving from the edge of the water around the edge to the next spot. So he might just be investigating what other animals have moved through the area, meaning other elephants. Aha, let's see, it looks like he's got a, not sure what that might be, pipe or a cable. You can see some bricks there, so it looks like maybe that's where the other elephants went and played around a bit. So you're saying that an elephant can store up to a gallon in its pharyngeal pouch is a small flap, or it's like it's a skin just behind the lower jaw and behind the tongue, and there are various do that. One of the main supported theories is for when they travel long distances, or when they need to have extra water in order to cool themselves down. But yeah, indeed a very, very interesting structure. But while we are here in this beautiful Tembe Elephant Reserve, with these beautiful views of elephants and the amazing colors that we see, I just want to remind our viewers of a wildlife photography with Danielle Carstens here at Mashatu Game Reserve in Botswana, and it'll be in September. So this time next year, 2025, the group size will be 4, and some of the talk the use of the underground photo hide at the new Lala Limpopo Sleepout. What an amazing chance to get some low down shots of elephants. The hide is on the dam. The dam was previously known as Pete's Pond, so that will certainly draw some animals drinking and some amazing opportunities. I'm sure it'll be very appealing for most of our Wild Earth viewers, and it's beautiful accommodation. It's got an aircon at Mashatu Lodge, and then of course it'll be hosted and guided with professional photographer Danielle Carstens throughout the whole experience. And one of the best things about it is it'll be an exclusive use of the photographic vehicle, and you'll receive on-the-ground training while capturing some incredible moments. What an opportunity. Now I can see there's a break in the cloud. You can see it's warming up a bit. And I can see that elephant's still got its trunk tucked away there. It makes me wonder a little bit. Maybe he might have a little bit of an irritation there. It might also be why he's spending so much time in the water. Maybe a small infection or something that's stuck there. It happens occasionally. I mean, they eat many dips. A lot of them often have some really nasty in them. I wouldn't be surprised if something gets stuck there. also starting to flap his ears more. And this particular reason here in Maputaland, or this particular area here in Maputaland, gets very, very hot. The moment that sun breaks from the clouds, it's almost an instant heat that comes out. You can see this elephant's resting his trunk on his tusk. It looks like he's got some secretions from the temporal glands, so maybe he might also be a little bit of stress. I'm not sure why that might be. Maybe because of all the other elephants in the area. Maybe because it might be a nice humid day there. Let's see, so with that squirt there, and I saw him do it earlier as well. He wasn't. Here we can see him drinking water now, but he wasn't drinking water with that. That looks like he's more just washing out his mouth, like rinsing it. And when an elephant rests its trunk like that on its tusk, sometimes it can be a sign of a little bit of discomfort or unsurety. And you could see clearly there at the end, he stuck his trunk back into that same position there, just at the base of the right tusk. The same, very, very interesting behavior here. I mean, I'm just taking a guess here at best, but I am thinking that there might be something maybe stuck somewhere near the base of that tusk or in that lip. Maybe you just sustained a cut that's a little bit irritating. He's moved down to the edge of the water. He's come here for a little bit of self-medication. Not a bad spot. And it's definitely warmed up a bit now. I can see that yellow-billed stork's also been washing himself there. So maybe hoping to utilize this bit of sunlight that's come through to warm up and dry out its feathers. Quite the process there. That's pretty small little lift off and landing there. Maybe because the feathers are wet. You can see it's just preening itself. Seems like this watering hole is getting used to for a bit of self-care here. And carefully using those very long legs and toes to scratch all those normally hard to reach places on the long neck. And it is something I find amazing, like how each creature with its unique adaptations have also uniquely adapted to be able to maintain its hygiene. You can see now, I'm wondering, this bird, I can see it's opening its feathers there, so it might probably turn around and face the sun a little bit just to dry it out and burn off some parasites. Hillary, can you see an elephant baby wriggle inside the mother's belly when she's pregnant? It's a good question, because I would say that I've thought so in the past, that I can see a baby kick or a baby moving. But to be honest, there is no way that I would actually know if that was the baby moving or if it was something else. They are such large animals, and it's actually sometimes quite difficult to actually even tell if the female is pregnant. I'm sure it is possible to see it, but I honestly, from what I can say, at least in my own experience, I am not 100% sure if that is exactly what I saw or if I was imagining something. So one last good little rub on the tree, and then off he goes. I think it's getting a little bit warmer around his water now. Probably going to move back towards the shadier bush. I thought earlier that these two elephants might be traveling together, but by the looks of it, I think they probably just came down to the water at the same time. Three woolly-necked storks. Might have just been stopping to investigate that elephant dung there. Can't see clearly from here, but it might be, maybe there was a little bit of more recent droppings. You can see some of the birds there standing with their wings spread out. Same thing, now that the sun's out, they're utilizing it just to warm up, as well as help to treat some of the external skin parasites. Calvin, you're asking how long an elephant baby can go without its mother. Not very long. It would depend on the baby's age. And with that, I don't think there is necessarily one straightforward answer. I think this is something that can vary so much, depending on the conditions, depending on structure, the age of the little one, definitely the environment, the time of the year. So often what we'll find is elephants kind of coincide the babies with the wetter parts of the year. Then again, that isn't always the case. However, a baby elephant is extremely dependent on its mother. Of course, it needs to drink. But should somebody's mother, if it has older siblings, they would be able to take care of that baby depending on its age. So up until about 2 months, almost exclusively milk from the mother. So up until then, that period would be quite crucial. And possibly if there would be another cow that's willing to adopt and raise that baby, at least for that crucial period, then I would say that baby can probably survive quite a bit and maybe keep going without its mother. Have its mother nearby, or the aid of a very, very resourceful and well-structured herd, then that baby wouldn't be able to go without its mother for long. The other elephant did decide to stick around. Definitely a younger bull, this one. He's got a spot where the other last little bit before he left off. And I see that he's squirting quite a bit of water out. That was quite interesting. He squirted out quite a lot. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing there, to be honest, and why he squirted out so much water. Let's see if he goes for another dust bath. It's funny now that the sun's out and it's brighter. The clouds have moved away. We can clearly see where those of the fall. And it's funny to watch this time of the day, the hot time of the day, the shadows in that exact spot, just covering that dust wall. Now, often things out here, due to necessity, they form and develop in areas, more so because of necessity and for a certain practical reason than anything else. Wallow due to the fact that in the heat of the day, it's one of the few shady spots around the water. And that's when the elephants would be standing in one spot, resting after they've had a drink, and then cover themselves with dust while standing in the shade. Bianca, can a herd adopt a lonely calf? That's a good question. I think it's very difficult to say and to know that that happens for sure in the wild. I think it would be difficult to determine, especially in certain areas, because of the fact that elephant herds can be quite secretive, but I think it's very possible. Should they come across a baby that's young enough, older one, I'm pretty sure they could. Elephants are remarkable creatures, and they certainly communicate quite well. And then also certain instinctive things like the motherly instinct. I'm pretty sure a young one in need would at least be considered. While we're watching this elephant carefully selecting his clumps of sand, it's quite interesting. I can see he's throwing some of it on him, but it looks almost like he's eating another part. Very, very interesting indeed. I mean, he might be grabbing some of the roots of some of those grasses, but it looks like he's kicking. Here we go. Definitely in his mouth. I think it is just some grass, some of the loose grass, but he's grabbing quite a bit of dust there that's going in. So I'd like to also remind our viewers of another exciting opportunity, and that would be a visit to the Sabi Sand with Steve Falconbridge. This trip will also be taking part next year in South Africa, and it will be in February, so February 2025, and there is space, or the group size will be six people. But I think this trip is you automatically get a free ticket to Dream, which will mean that you'll get a chance to actually travel in the broadcast vehicle and during a live show of Wild Earth. What an amazing experience that must be. And you'll be staying at Jackie Safari House, and it's just around the corner from Juma, and it's an exclusive use house. It's very luxurious, and if you're lucky, which I'm sure you'll be, you'll get to see a lot of the Wild Earth animal characters. I guess really utilizing the shade as well. Like I said earlier, this part of South Africa gets really hot. Useful dust like this. You might be loosening the soil on the edges and not just using the rest that's already loosened because it's cooler. And those cool clumps of soil can be quite comfortable. And it looks like a little jongo came down there to come and grab something, some of the insects that might have been disturbed. It looks like some swallows flying around as well. But this elephant was definitely eating while loosening that dirt, and I'm thinking that's pretty amazing, because grass, or knowing that it needs to get that to eat, wow, that trunk must be full of dust currently. You can see he uses that kind of hand, picking up his scoops full and throwing it over himself behind the and is definitely resting now. So I think in part it's also just enjoying that shade Must have had quite a bit to feed on this morning, and it will as soon as it moves away from here again. And with this perspective we can see, oh, and here's the other elephant. He's also come to the shade, doing the same, just dusting, relaxing and utilizing the shade quite effectively. It goes to show, I don't think we often realize how hot some of these places can get. And although they're beautiful and spectacular, getting out and staying out during the middle of the day in the bush can sometimes be quite exhaustive. Sanjith Roy, I see you saying that you saw small lion pride at a watering hole late in the evening a couple of days ago. That's pretty amazing. I guess that's the time when they are most likely to come past, rather than this time of the day. It's very hot. Now I've noticed, especially here in northern Zululand, in the Butaland, we find sometimes that the lions during from already they find shady spots and they go straight down. The humid weather in these regions make it quite tough for the big cats to move about, and they've got they have effective, but they don't have ways similar to the elephant to bring cool themselves down. So when temperatures get very high, it's quite difficult for them, and one of their strategies is to just lay down and do as little as possible. Very good to know. It's good to know that they are around. Mandla, I'm very happy enjoying. So am I. The fact that there's almost constantly some elephant characters around is amazing. Let's see what happens now. I wonder if these two are actually gonna move back towards each other. So at first I thought they might be moving together, then I thought they don't. Now they're both back here. I guess they've got nowhere better to go. Penelope Kenyon, I agree. I think these elephants should go for a swim now. Between us. I was hoping maybe that younger one might. This big one looks like he might be a little bit of discomfort. Maybe not in the mood for a swim. And here we have a Nyala. Just casually crossing. He's not sparing any time. He's making haste to get across. They always move out in the open. And I guess they do feel a little bit exposed. You can see just a brief stop there. See those moving in all directions. As it enters the thicker bush, always worth it to stop. Just to have a scan, use the sensors. What a beautiful antelope. And they perfectly blend in again. The dark upper bodies in and amongst the shrubs. The densest part is a little bit above ground, and then the paler grass colored legs just seemingly blending in with the grass at a lower level. View there of the surrounding vegetation, you can see it's very, very dense. It's not as open as this patch here around the water. And here we have another elephant coming in. He looks excited to come to the water's edge. See what he does. Not even a greeting, straight to the water. This is quite interesting. The big elephant certainly paying a little to him. It is funny that his arrival coincides with the bigger one moving. And I wonder if he's going to move off or just to the edge to feel a little bit. Nope, stopped. Maybe he just moved off slightly. He doesn't feel like having a physical interaction there. Well, no, I guess he was on his way to go look for something to eat. You can see now, that's pretty spectacular how such a big animal just kind of fades into the surrounding bush. But we can see the clear, very, very bright, flushed green. So there's lots of new food, new growth around. And with all of that, I'm pretty sure these elephants would be able to spend extended periods of time around the water like this. Old Punkster is very, very beautiful. I agree. I think it's such a beautiful spot. It looks wild. It's got the beautiful color scheme, and then of course the creatures moving through. Lady, seen so much water, Timby. That's quite something to remark. I wouldn't actually know. There is quite a lot of water, I would agree, especially for the time of the year. But having said that, I also know that this part of quite a lot of rain and cold fronts even during this season, which from about April up until now would be the dry, but it certainly had some late rains in April, lots and lots of it, and then it had a couple of bouts of rain throughout the season. So the area is quite well saturated. Maybe that's why these pools are holding the water so well. There's a drink. It's also going to that spot. And that's the same spot the big elephant stopped and the other one came past. Now I guess we can see like the edge of the water's clear there. I guess it is a good spot to drink. Can't help me the signs or the presence of the animal that have been there draws elephants to the same spot. That's an interesting way to get rid of some of the water. Now I can imagine what they feed off. Some of it being very well protected through the plant's chemical defenses. Can't always leave the best of tastes behind. And I often wonder, maybe they are just rinsing their mouth. There's also lots of small and chewed material that's still within the mouth, and and the flaps under the tusks. So they do need to clean their mouths. Lady Macbeth, you say that you have to see Tembe. So you've spent quite a bit of time in Umukuzi and Zimanga. Also beautiful, beautiful areas, are stunningly beautiful. I think you can't go wrong anywhere in that part of South Africa. And it's still got such a beautiful wild feel to it. There's beautiful floodplains, lots and lots of diversity, not just the mammals, but also the bird life, the plant life. And then also Isimangaliso, which is definitely one of my favorite areas in South Africa, and extremely, extremely unique. Oh, now the other elephant's back. So let's see, maybe this one might try to look for his friend with the larger tusks that's moved off now. That's, if I'm not mistaken, that this one is the elephant that has been around here earlier, and yeah, maybe he's just checking where the other one went. It would be interesting to see if he does decide to track him. That would be pretty amazing. While whatever he was doing, while he was doing that, his friend moved off. Or not. Maybe he's just coming in for another quick drink. While checking out the other young elephant. One thing I've noticed around this particular, especially with the amount of bull elephants that's around, yes, occasionally there's one or two pushing each other around, but even in those encounters, I haven't noticed any serious signs of aggression, which makes me think that these animals are all pretty aware of each other's presence, and they have quite a good relationship going between them, quite a tolerant relationship going, which is amazing to see. I wonder why that would be. I mean, Never know if they might be related, but I know up until relatively recently, the elephants were able to travel freely between South Africa and Mozambique in this region. And from what I understand, the aim is to try and open up some of those fences in the future and have the animals move freely between South Africa and Mozambique again. So it's a crucial area within a elephant corridor, or a region that elephants naturally used to use for seasonal migrations. But it could also be indicative of the fact that this area is very well stocked with resources. I wonder what he's digging for there. Oh, it looks like he got something to eat. I always find that amazing. An elephant can walk through a very large clearing and then randomly in the middle of nowhere stop and just pick up whatever. You can smell certain ideal parts of plants that they eat quite deep under the ground, so you'll often find that they dig for tuber-like plants. Often those tubers contain quite a lot of moisture and fiber. You can see all those rounded dugout areas where elephants have used it to dust themselves in the past. And then of course also after the rains, this area would probably be quite muddy, and due to that, all these little tracks that they leave behind, well, little, not so little, all these large elephant tracks left behind, almost starts out and creates like its own little ecosystem. Starts out in the wet soil, gathers a bit more water, becomes a puddle to wallow in for smaller creatures. Maybe a leopard tortoise goes in there first, then a warthog, eventually all the way up to forming these seasonal pans the size of the one that this elephant's drinking from now. And that I find pretty spectacular about this whole natural process. It is unbelievable. And able to sustain a very large creature like an elephant, and that is quite spectacular. Now, this is quite a nice view. You can see the wrinkles of this elephant's backside. You can clearly see the spine, and then all those wrinkles, the back end. Clearly from constant rubbing and scratching up against thick bark trees like that one is standing underneath currently. It looks like he's just moved out of the sun and back into the shade. Another elephant still around the water's edge. It looks like it's a slow process of moving away. Oh, there's a third elephant. They just tend to pop out from everywhere. Now, I'm pretty sure there must be a couple around this area. And having access to drinkable water and so much of it makes it quite easy, especially for the bull elephants, to move back and forth, stay within the area. Let's see. This elephant on the left looks like he's keen for a bit of a physical interaction. Here we go. There's a greeting, reassuring the other elephant. He's here on friendly terms, just coming for some water. Chelsea, you're asking if algae happens more in some seasons than others. Well, it does to an extent. The conditions need to be right, but one of the main things for algae is it needs lots of sunlight. So often what you find is in the drier season, whichever way it was brought in initially, when it starts to get towards the end with a lot of animals moving through, meaning that there's lots of debris and food in the water, and then the sunlight that comes down when there's a lack of cloud cover, that produces optimal conditions for algae blooms. Usually these last 2 months of the dry season, September, October, just before the rains come. Quite a harsh period for some animals and for the environment, getting sunbeaten every day with no cover. But generally, depending on the conditions, it's not necessarily limited to a specific seasonal time. But at least in the low-veld areas of South Africa, I've noticed that it's often later in the dry season. Or even I've also noticed that towards the end of the rain season, there was a lot of rain sometimes, and a very hot rain season with infrequent bouts of rain then sometimes as well. What a spectacular scene. So much happening around this watering hole. And for these elephants coming and going here, there's always something. Not just the fact their water requirements, but they also, at their age, they're quite curious. They can investigate all the other animals that's moved through. Lots of food. Some birds to chase around. But what an unbelievable sight indeed. I would like to thank all our viewers for joining us this afternoon at Live at the Waterhole, and from all of us here at Wild Earth. We really hope that you'll join us again tomorrow afternoon to see what surprises the watering holes can provide us with. In the meantime, I'll leave you to see what these three elephants do.